Okay, I want to call to order the regularly scheduled meeting of the Murphysboro Unit District 186. And Mrs. Hines, will you take the roll, please?
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Beavers?
Here.
Dr. Dorr?
Here.
Mr. Green?
Yes.
Mrs. James?
Yeah, here.
Mrs. Evaldi?
Here.
Mr. Rungy?
Here. Next item is the Pledge of Allegiance. And Mrs. Hankins, will you be so kind as to lead us, please?
I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next item is the approval of the agenda. Are there any changes, Mr. Brody?
No, sir.
And I will accept a motion to approve the agenda as printed.
So moved.
A second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item is the approval of the consent agenda, which includes District 186 budget amendment hearing minutes from 5/21/19, District 186 regular board meeting minutes from 5/21/19, Tri-County minutes dated May the 8th of 2019, Tri-County bills for June of 2019, applications and reports, and I will entertain a motion to accept the consent agenda. Get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 6 is the approval of District 186 bills for May of 2019. Does the board have any questions of Mrs. Bush?
I do.
Please let us know what page you're on if we can find it. And
Okay.
there's like 3, correct?
Yeah. So the,
Where are you at?
page 1, the prior year return of funds, 1,900, what's,
Page 1, who's the vendor?
that's all it says. American Express is the vendor.
Fourth and fifth from the bottom.
That has to do with our, what's the word I'm trying to, E-rate.
E-rate.
The E-rate. We have an E-rate grant that we get reimbursed for certain technology, phone, and they've changed, I know they've changed that, Steve, but we get reimbursed for what we don't. So expenses that we turned in for a prior year's grant that we've done before previously, and then they, after the fact, a couple of years later, disallowed that and asked for returns of funds.
Okay.
On the E-rate funds.
Page 3, the foundation golf outing for 400.
Yes. So we support the foundation, Education Foundation, through sponsoring a team for the golf outing.
And we can do that on state, with state funds.
State and local funds.
The 14,000 plumbing at the high school.
Absolutely.
Is that,
That is going along with the new, Absolute Plumbing, the new football field job, the
Okay.
Water line relocation. The water line wasn't where it was supposed to be, and we had to reroute and do some different things with that.
And
That weren't on the as-built from the original. It was different than on the as-built,
Right.
so. yeah.
that same okay. The 293,000 on page 4, is that for the sports complex? Is that, it says pay order number 4. How many more of those do we have?
Just depends how many, each month we ask that they have a pay order to us before the board meeting. So this was their 4th one. So it just depends on, August 1st is the completion date, or the substantial completion date. So I suspect that we'll have one in July, August, September. I mean, we could go into October with, I would think, with some smaller amounts. But I think the majority will be paid out on that project, and hopefully the middle school also, with the July and August board meetings.
Okay.
And those pay orders are reviewed and approved by the architects before we pay them.
And then the only other one I saw was the one that was on today's for the painting.
Yes.
I don't recall it being that high?
It was 77,
Oh, okay.
77.7 with all the addendums, and we approved, the board approved all of those.
Yeah.
To get the gym, the cafeteria, all the hallways, some exterior and interior. So it's about 90% of the job, and they are more than 90% complete.
Okay.
So they submitted that. So we still have retainage on that to get in the punch list, things done. So they've done it a lot faster than we thought they would. So we can finish getting the building clean, and we're in pretty good shape there.
Those are all my questions.
Anyone else?
Yes, Baker McGee, it's the smaller page, it says it's the final payment, so all the concerns about the curtains and all of those issues have been taken care of.
The main part of the curtains, I mean, I think there's still issues with needing more curtains, but that's not part of that job.
Okay,
Yeah.
So,
all
so
the
That's a
things that they
correct
were
statement.
supposed to complete.
Yes.
Steve, I haven't been there in the last couple of weeks. They were supposed to scrub the walls.
And they were there working on those walls.
Okay.
Doug and Mason was doing that. There's also an outstanding PO for bollards that we had spoken about. That was outside of this work, so it's not included.
The bollards are coming, it'll be stopping cars from pulling
Right,
up to the
right.
door.
Okay,
But the scrubbing of the walls was the only thing that was really outstanding from the work that needed to be done. They were waiting for the summer because it's muriatic acid smells.
That's it.
Anyone else? All right, then I will entertain a motion to approve the District 186 bills for May of 2019. And a second?
Second.
Mrs. Hines?
Mr. Beavers?
Yes.
Mrs. Evaldi?
Here.
Dr. Dorr?
Yes.
Mr. Green?
Yes.
Mrs. James?
yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Rungy?
Yes, motion carries. Item 7, communications. Do we have any?
We have one.
Okay.
Dear Mr. Grody, please accept my letter of resignation from 6th grade special education teacher, JV baseball coach, and volunteer middle school baseball coach effective immediately. I had accepted a position at a neighboring school district. Working at the middle school helped me to grow as an educator. The teachers at the middle school also made me a more efficient co-teacher as well as in the self-contained classroom. While my tenure was short at the district, I was able to strengthen myself as a teacher more than I would have thought. Furthermore, after 3 districts, I can say that Mr. Keener has been the best administrator I have worked with. I thank you for the opportunity and wish you all the best. If there's any way I can be of assistance during this transition, please let me know. Sincerely, Mark Hostert.
Recommendation is to approve his letter of resignation.
And I'll entertain a motion to accept that.
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. That was it, right?
Mhm.
I think we had a couple of fishbowl items. Mrs. Dorr, do you have one?
Thanks to the Board of Education for allowing to start the MHS trap team this year. The team placed 4th on conference. Lauren Crabtree was first place female shooter in our conference. Trap team coaching staff, Ted Rose, Scott Attacks,
Strang.
Dave McClure, and Brian Tripp. Says
Awesome.
And feel free to pull out your phones and start your tweets, Facebook, Instagrams. This would be awesome to get this to go around so everybody knows. From Cody Elmire's desk, Murphysboro High School received notification this week that the school has earned elite status by the U.S. News and World Report for being a 2019 Best High School. MHS is only one of 3 Southern Illinois schools noted in the top 200 schools in the state this past year. The ranking is based on the following criteria: college readiness, math and reading proficiency, underserved student performance, AP course placement, and graduation rate. I would like to thank the faculty and staff at Murphysboro High School and, most importantly, the student body. The work they all put in each and every day allows our schools to achieve this milestone. While this ranking is not the be-all, end-all, it does deserve applause. Murphysboro 186 schools are doing great things. We should be proud of all of our accomplishments. # Murphy Pride.
Good. Any others? That was it? Okay. Next item of business is Freedom of Information Act request, and it looks like we had one.
We did. It was our quarterly Smart Procure request, and again, we responded in a timely manner. This information was from September 18th to
current, 2018 to current, so.
Okay. Item 10 is the recognition of the audience. The Board of Education welcomes the audience to make public or employee comments. The board has set aside time in the agenda specifically for this purpose. Pursuant to Board Policy 2.230, each speaker shall be limited to a 5-minute presentation. Please be aware that while this is the time for the public to express its opinions and/or concerns, the board may or may not comment regarding public presentations. If a matter of public comment warrants discussion or action of the Board of Education, such discussion or action will be added to the agenda of a future meeting. Are there any public concerns? Are there any employee concerns? You're just all chipper tonight. Okay. Move into old business, and the first item is a financial update. Mr. Grody?
We are expecting to get all of our payments for this school year, which is very, very good. We also, the state has passed the budget. Looking at the evidence-based funding amounts, we are expecting to get $600,000. It's equal to what last year we had estimated $400,000. 2 years ago, we had $800,000. Last year, we had $600,000, so we were projecting $400,000 for this year. We're gonna get another $600,000, so that is good news, especially with our next agenda item being the insurance cost. The extra $200,000 will go and assist us with those
It's going to get eaten up in a hurry.
things. Yes, sir.
Okay. At
One
least
other
it's good
thing.
news.
One other thing I just want you to be aware of. We under the facilities, we wrote that grant for the $1 million no interest loan from the Egyptian Electrical Co-op. It's pretty much all done and all approved if they can get the Historical Society to check off the fact that this doesn't change the building any. I've sent pictures, we've written up reports as to what's going on. I did tell them that if this is the Historical Society's desire to get us on the list of historic registry, we don't have an interest in that. But through this grant, one of the steps is they need to have a statement from the Historical Society saying that this won't substantially change the building. So if we get that in the next month or so, we'll be able to get the loan, and if not, then we probably won't get the loan. So just wanted to update you on that.
Okay. Questions from the board?
And we did get our money for our bonds, our $3 million bonds. It's in the bank, so
Got it.
that money came
Okay.
in the 5th of June, and we are starting to spend that on our projects.
Good.
So, this budget stuff, am I reading this correct, that we really only have about $500,000 of cash in the bank?
For what fund?
All of the, in assets, it says cash in bank. When I go all
We
the
roll
way
them,
over.
we roll them over into investments though. We keep, that's what's actually in our bank account. So what's in our investments is money that we can wire out.
At any
Yeah.
time?
Mhm.
Okay,
Yeah. So it's liquid.
okay.
We do that to, the $250,000 FDIC
Mhm.
insurance. We make sure that we've covered that, so we keep that invested either in Illinois funds or, liquid asset fund, which has that additional layer of, protection.
Okay.
Anyone else? All right, item number 2 is the Egyptian Area School Employee Benefit Trust Health Insurance. This is informational. We've been discussing this for a couple of months now.
You wanna, we met with Don Ewell. He is our workers' comp agent. He doesn't do health insurance, but we did kind of pick his brain as far as options and whatnot on that. We're waiting until the end of this month when the incurred but not reported, the IBNR numbers are finalized. And those should be done by June 30th, correct?
Right, they have to, our actuary for the trust has to certify that number, and which will give us a better idea of what our fund balance is, that negative fund balance. To see what it would look like if we were to leave the trust, what that cost would be, because right now it's kind of in my mind, a mythical number. But we are working I'm gathering information, I've requested, and I've gotten certain information already from the trust for other pools, for the ISEBC and the Southern Illinois Health and Wellness Insurance Trust, so we can get some other options, look at
So we're
what
hoping by next
other
month's
markets.
meeting, we'll be able to bring back this information. Once we get the information, we'll meet with the association and then hopefully by the next month's meeting. have
But the rate increase that you told us about a month or so ago,
13.5%
that's
with the plan we have now.
that's a for certain. That's
That
in
happens,
stone.
that happens September 1st, or for September 1st, if we stay with the plan that we have now, yes. So, the
What was
options,
that dollar figure again?
286,000 an increase. So, there are options within the trust, other plans, but we're really hoping, I met last week, with a gentleman that works with, the Southern Illinois Health and Wellness, which represents Williamson County, Crab Orchard, Carbondale 95, Carterville, several local schools, and has done a good job with them, so, but I'm still trying to get the large claim information from the trust, and they have not provided me with that information yet, so sometimes it's
So we're
pulling,
still in a holding pattern.
it's pulling teeth, we've provided employee census information, but, we haven't got, what those rates might look like if we were to switch, but there would still be the buyout, and for it to be worth our while to do that at this point, we would have to get a really good rate to do that buyout as well. So we're hoping that we will have that locked in July, for the July meeting, and have a better idea with some recommendations and some options to bring to the board.
Have the other trusts given you any indication of what's involved in starting up in their trust? Would they just accept kind of our history from the others, or would they have to do a complete survey of all of our staff?
Well, they have different rates for there hasn't been a new group coming in, so I'm not saying that they would even want us to come in. They're, they'll look at that, look at our census, and, we'll know that information then. So we
Well,
haven't been formally invited into anything, and that's what happened with the Egyptian Trust. When we first applied, we're interested in being in the trust, they said our claims experience was too high, and
Right.
they weren't interested in us. A couple of years later, we had a lot better claims experience, and they started coming after us. But at that point, we were over 500 strong because we had Tri-County with us. So a large group like that, when the claims are pretty good, you're pretty attractive.
Yeah.
Right now, our claims in Tri-County, we're not together anymore, but they are still with the trust as well. They have high claims right now too, so it's not just us.
Other questions from the board? Item number 3 is the approval of the amended 2019-2020 school calendar, which is enclosure number 1 in your packet.
With the governor signing off on the budgets and a lot of other school business items, the calendar is finalized, and so this is the formal approval so that we can submit it into the Illinois Web Access System, IWAS. We recommend that we approve it as presented.
Is this still with we may have a spring break, we may not?
Right. So the way it would work is if we don't have any emergency days, we can move those and turn that into a spring break.
And what would the proposed spring break be?
It would be that week right there before Easter.
So,
14, 15, 16, 17.
No, 6th and 7th.
6th through Easter's the 12th.
So they already have the
Oh,
8th and
the wrong
9th
month,
and
sorry.
10th off, and they would add the 6th and the 7th,
Yeah.
or,
Please, thank you, I'm sorry.
and all
Yeah,
the
so
staff
we-
knows about that
I
now.
thought we were adding it up after Easter.
yeah, at the last meeting, it was, I thought, gonna be in March
Oh,
or
was-
something.
No, it was around Easter. The discussion has always been whether or not we do it with SIU or not, and,
Kara, I think we said we'll have to approve it in March to do the April.
So when in March?
Yeah, in March would be when we would need to bring forward to amend the calendar so that we have those days
So
off.
the 17th, that third Tuesday of March?
Would be when we would, say we're
Parents
getting
would
the
just-
6th and the 7th off.
Parents would just get a couple of weeks' notice that they,
Needed childcare on the 6th and 7th? Or that they, yeah, okay.
Other questions? Then I'll entertain a motion to accept the recommendation of the school calendar as presented.
Second?
All in favor? Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, now we need to move into new business, and the first item is the IASB has an executive search portion of it, and we have Mr. Jim Helton here tonight. The board was provided with information about this last month, and he is here now to not only answer questions, but also any other presentation that you want to make. So, Mr. Helton, the floor is yours.
Very good, thank you. First of all, I've seen you before.
Yeah.
Hi,
Hello.
I'm Jim.
Hi.
Hi, nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. Talk to you on the phone.
Yep.
Hi. See, you're a recording secretary. Nice to meet you. Good move. Hi. Hi.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Well, let me have a few things here, and I know you had previously received some information. So my background, it's interesting listening to the wet farm stories because this weekend I was with my family up north of Effingham, and that was kind of where I grew up, and that was home for me. Taught in the I-80 corridor for 18 years, and taught junior high, and then became a principal in southern part of the state. I was a principal in 2 spots in Robinson, Illinois, and then in Waterloo. And then had the opportunity when I was in Waterloo to interview for the superintendent's position. I was then in Waterloo for 9 years as superintendent, retired from there, and then took a year and caught up on the things around home that I didn't get accomplished, and now I've been working with IASB for the last 3 years. So I'm 4 years in retirement, going on my 5th, and enjoy the executive search part of it. You received some information from Tom Leahy, who is our executive search head. In your packet, I probably duplicated a little bit of what he had, but on your right side, as you open it up, there is the letter to the district that's formalized. There is also a brief synopsis of the bullet points of what a full search of the executive of a superintendent takes part of, and then after that's my vita, and then on the left side is kind of a more of a just a little PowerPoint. If you want to go through that on your own, because everybody in my mind learns a little bit differently, and so you've all are at a different space probably with your research. But I think the one thing that I want to point out is on that next to last page, or I guess last page of the PowerPoint, when we talk about why IASB, if you take a look at our retention rate, the folks that we helped with last year, 100% of them are still in their position. Year before that, 100% are still in their position. Year before that, 92%. We had a little bit of movement in 14 and 15, and then 13 and 14, almost 85% are still in their original position. We have a statement of assurance that says basically we stay with you. If that first placement does not work, we're with you until it works. That's just something that we believe in. There's a guarantee of services, confidentiality. Those are the things that you're going to get from IASB. As Mr. Runge had said, we have our policy services, we have other services from our organization. For ourselves, this is the executive search part. This is the part who actually works with the district in gathering. We do superintendents, we do principals, business managers, assistant superintendents, etc. But we're here tonight to talk about our executive search part of it. So what do we do? I'm just gonna hand one more sheet to you. Some of this may look familiar, but a full search, and it's the non-highlighted piece, but the full search is quite honestly all of those bullet points. We'll do a professional search to meet the needs of the district, and so how do we meet the needs of the district? There's a designated search coordinator. For myself, I would be your search coordinator for Murphysboro. We assist the Board of Education in establishing a timeline. The last page of this stapled piece gives you an idea of what the timeline initially would start to look like. There's a lot of pieces to that, and I'll work with the Board of Education and the district in fulfilling that in order to get the best candidate for Murphysboro 186. The next bullet, board, staff, and community online surveys. We have a quantitative piece where we worked with the district to post a online survey. It's sent to parents, it's sent to board members, it's sent to community members, staff members, and we gather input. And we keep this, we take that data and then present it back to the Board of Education, and this is what their your stakeholders believe as far as what they want in leadership qualities of a new superintendent. We develop an announcement of vacancy. That can look a whole lot different now with the whole electronic PDF side. I can give you a sense of what these are sent out around the state of Illinois to, we have a database of about 8,000 people that get access to this. And every time there's an update to this, they get another email. And so that database is very important. We'll assist the board in identifying the ideal candidate needed profile. That needed profile will come from the survey, it'll come from conversations. We'll provide guidance on appropriate compensation package. We'll give you data on what surrounding districts and district your size pay, and we'll announce and advertise the vacancy and solicit applications for the position. We collect applications, verify the qualifications, experience, licensure of all the candidates, and their willingness to interview for the position. We'll review their applications, select and recommend to the Board of Education a list of 4 to 6 candidates, generally in the 6 candidate range, for interviews. We verify their references. We do limited background inquiries for leading candidates. We do all of the reference checking piece. Assist the board in establishing the interview format, preparing for a site visit for the final candidate, and then a post-search board and superintendent workshop with the field services director to kind of kickstart that superintendent board relationship going into that next leadership piece with the board. All of that is what we call a full search. There are a couple of components here that I highlighted in yellow, and then within the verbiage you can read what those entail. What we've also found is in the last probably couple of years of our superintendent search process, boards want additional information. That quantitative piece on a survey can give you some information, but it doesn't give everything. And so what we also offer is what we kind of call a qualitative piece, where I would sit down with staff, with certified, non-certified, any stakeholders, have an evening session. Whenever I do these, I've worked as from 5:30 in the morning until 9 o'clock at night. I mean, we get the most of what we can. It works better if we're interviewing staff, if we coordinate it around maybe an in-service day or something to that effect. But basically what we do is we listen to people. We ask them what they like about the district, what's strong, what are some concerns about the district, and what they're looking for in a new leader. And then we write exactly what they say down. And then the board would get a report of this. So not only would you get a quantitative, well, the next superintendent needs to be a visionary or, in that whole leadership, but you also get what they say about they want for their next leader. And I think that's a real strong component. We're getting a lot of, I would say almost every district that I've worked with over the last 3 years, probably 80% have opted for that. The other piece of it is at the end of the process, after you go through your first round of interviews, then you'll select a second round of interviews. So you'll have a smaller slate of, say, 2 to 3 candidates at that point for a second round. What we also do during that second round is facilitate, if you have a community group made up of community boosters, staff, administration, 30 up to 30. I mean, I've worked with a group as large as 40 where they'll also meet with the final candidate while the board interviews the final candidate for that second. So we'll have kind of a rotational wagon wheel system where the board will interview that second round candidate, and then the community will also interview that second round candidate. And then they'll kind of rotate throughout the evening. What we ask the community stakeholder group to do at that point is give their potential for success. They don't really vote yay or nay, but they give their potential for success based upon the ideal candidate qualities that you, the board, and the community have chosen on the front end of it through the quantitative piece and also through the qualitative piece. So what we then do is, after that evening, we give that report to the Board of Education, so you have it that night that you're doing your final interviews. And so you'll get immediate feedback. What we found is by our confidential application process, it's real important. People like to apply through our online application process. We'll have a date that it will be due. We will then, based upon the leadership criteria that we develop with you and through you, we'll bring you a cadre of candidates then that fits that best. We will have done the due diligence on our end, checking their references, like we said before, checking their licensure. If we have any out-of-state candidates, we have an out-of-state consortium that we work with called NAS. And for instance, if I have somebody who comes across from Missouri that has very strong qualifications, I can make some phone calls to my colleague on the Missouri side who does just what I do and also find out additional information. Myself, Tom Leahy, Tim Buss, we've all been on the board of directors for IASA. I think that's important. We have superintendent connections around the state of Illinois. And whenever we check on candidates, not only do we check their references, but we check around them, because our process allows us to do that they know that we're going to talk to anybody. And so we'll do that reference checking above and beyond what they have suggested within their online application process. So they upload everything. Whenever you as a board sit down, we'll sit down and go over the final 6 candidates. You'll have all of their confidential materials. And at that time, we'll initially go through it, but then the board will have your responsibility to do your due diligence. Generally between the first and the second round, whenever those second round folks come in, Rick, that's when the board president would generally make their reference calls. And so it's a process that'll last 6 to 8 weeks. You're in a good time frame to talk about it. We have 2 phases. We have a phase that happens on the front end of the school year where people are retired or know they're going to be leaving contracts. And so that's I want to say the cherry picking, but that's kind of the cherry picking, because these will be due in that October, November time frame. And then there will be somebody hired by November, December. There will be a second round that will open up in the January time frame, whether folks either don't have contracts renewed because of various regions, or there could potentially be movement. Somebody who, interviewed in that first round is moving to a superintendency, and so their superintendency is now open. So there's that second round. And then there will be a third round where boards have to make a decision whether or not they want to advertise and try to fill a position in that March, April, May timeframe. And we do have some boards that say, yes, we want to try to do that. And we have some boards that say, no, we'd rather go with an interim for 6 months or for this year, and let's see what happens with that. So those are kind of the phases. You're on this first phase and kind of the ideal phase as far as the conversation and talking about it. I didn't go through my normal PowerPoint piece because you've read some information. So I came in hoping that you'd have some questions or at least additional comments about what we can talk about to get a little bit deeper for your specifics.
Okay, board. Questions?
So in the verifying of references, it says a limited background, so you do additional vetting of the candidate
We do.
beyond
Yeah.
just in their area, or?
Well, we will go to every job that we'll look at their previous positions. So not just their current position, but they're also previous positions to try to do, and again, to get information. In today's age, what we find is there are some, and especially who come out of the Chicago area, that tend to have buyouts, and those buyouts sometimes have legitimate reasons behind them, and sometimes they're a little bit more, you have to do a little bit more digging.
Mhm.
And we try to do a little bit more digging. So, yep.
And then the failure rate, you said, once a candidate's placed, if they don't work out, then
If they
it's
don't work
still-
out in that first year, or if something falls through, we're with you again. We've had a couple of instances, and I can think of back one for sure, where we recommended a Board of Education never only bring one finalist to the second round, just because in case something happened, then you don't have a second option. Board chose to only bring one finalist to the second round, and contract negotiations fell apart. And so then they couldn't really go back to that next, so we reopened it. And we reopened it, and we did it for nothing. Didn't charge the board. I say we're with you for that original pricing. I mean, we don't, yeah.
That's just kind of, I think, a best practice all the way around.
Yeah.
Yep.
I have a question.
We
about
want
the-
you happy.
Yeah, well, bring more than one person
Right.
in case something falls through.
I know.
I have a
Yes.
question about the first highlighted,
Yes,
the interviews. You also mentioned that you sent out a survey that had questions that the community and the staff
Yeah.
were included in that.
It's an online. What we'll do is it's about 16 items that are based upon leadership, good leadership qualities, and basically will make you force choice. You'll have to there's 16, and you'll have to choose 5 or 6, and then we'll compare those groups, the stakeholder groups, and give you all of the data. Now, with that, those are password protected. And so you can put a link on your community, put it out through Twitter, do everything through Facebook, etc. That's an open, from the community standpoint, that's an open, they'll get in. Now, could they get in 5 times? They could potentially, I guess. But what we do is we really, like I said, we password protect the board, we password protect the staff, administration, and I've had some boards that would like to get parent input as a little bit differently than just the community. And so we'll password protect it, get it out with the student notification center. The students, that student contact center, or however you notify your, your student software generally does a pretty good job of getting a hold of parents.
Okay. I guess my question is, are you asking some of the same questions in the online
What
survey
we're
that you
doing,
would do
yeah,
in the interview?
on the face-to-face, it's that face-to-face, as I said before. What do you like about the district? What's unique about the district? What do you like about the district? what you have concerns about the district, and what do you look for in your next superintendent. Those are the 4 questions when I'm face to face with people, and I write exactly what they say. I think the thing that I found through the last couple of years is people are a little leery at first, but then to get an unbiased ear, you tend to hear a lot. I'm confidential. I write everything down, and then I prepare a report for the Board of Education. And the Board of Education, though, sees every statement that I record. But what I try to do is I try to find congruence. And so whenever I present a report to the Board of Education, I'll find congruence then of these are the things that everybody basically agreed upon were challenges, or were strengths, or were unique qualities, and the ideal candidates of that. But you'll get the entire report. You'll get all of my notes per se. But then what I do is I try to refine it for you so it's a little simpler.
But again, those questions are not asked on
They're
the
different,
electron-
yeah.
those are not
Yeah.
repeated.
And,
Okay.
and basically those, I mean, I'll ask the same questions to certified, non-certified, staff, administration. If you have we've had community sessions in the evening time where we've invited folks to come in, and basically it takes about 45 minutes to an hour to get that amount of dialogue, and I just write what they say. Okay.
One consultant one day is enough for that?
I think so. For the size of your district, about 1,800. I mean, it would work best if we had like teachers in service. I can work with a staff of teachers per building in about 45 minutes to an hour. I mean, but I need some free time. And what I try to do initially is work around teachers' contracts and say, okay, what do we have any common plan time? Is there anything that we can try to do to set it up? If we can't work within like a school improvement day or something like that, we'll have to take a look at the time frame. But really, I've been able to do a district this size in one day, yeah. And really then too, I guess the other piece of it is, if I need to do a half a day on one side and a half a day on the other side to get your full day, I can do that for the same price. I mean, it's, like I said, if logistics say that we only need to do it for 2 half days versus 1 whole day, we'll just make it work. I mean, the good thing is, ISB does not charge you for mileage, does not, I mean, our price is our price, and so, that's what it is.
You said your placement percentage was in the position after a certain amount of time. What is the actual placement rate of people who start the search? Who hire someone from the search?
For the other firms, or for on that last page of our PowerPoint.
What they use them. No, that's what I'm saying. It's like what percentage of your searches, the
Yeah.
nominal fee $700, what percentage do you have where they hire from the group that you bring?
Oh, I would say 99%, 95%. I mean, every now and then there have been instances where something didn't click with the first 6 and they've asked us to bring more. Been instances where a board had an outside candidate where they felt like, you know what, they really wanted to give that individual an opportunity. If you have internal candidates, we need to talk about how we treat them. Some districts treat internal candidates and say put them in the in the mix and cream will rise. Or no, these people have been here, they are cream, and we really want to give them an interview. Best example I can give of that is, for myself at Waterloo, I was a junior high principal, and board said no experience, but I had inside knowledge, and so what they told the ISB stack him up against everybody else. I kind of like that because if I emerged from it, then I felt like I was standing on my own 2 feet. Edwardsville, I just finished a search for this past spring. They had 5 internal candidates. And so they interviewed 6 plus 5. And they wanted anybody who was an internal candidate they wanted to hear. And so the board made that commitment to them. So it's a little bit, everything's a little bit different with that.
I have a question on the timeline.
Yes.
Looking at this back page. You've got 2018, but that's fine. So
Oh,
if
yeah.
I'm reading this correctly, we would not take board action on hiring you all for the executive search until October?
No. That's just, that was something that was a little bit quick. Sorry about that. But I would say.
'Cause I've got it as an action
That
item.
should have been a TBA.
Okay.
All right, that should have been a TBA. Because I pulled this together, that was something that was, I worked in, yeah. The best thing would be, I don't know if you have it on the agenda tonight.
It is, and it is
for
as an
approval.
action
I didn't
item.
know if it was, from our conversation, I didn't know that. As soon as the board approves it, what we will do is right away, we will put it on our website and start and post it, and it'll be that initial posting. Then as we update things, because we'll have to get information, we'll have to do all of that, that will then, every time we update it, we'll send out a kind of a news blast to all of our folks. And we could do it tonight. Since it's an action item, if the board wants to talk, there's plenty of time if you do in July, so.
Any other questions from the board?
When you talked about the password protected and surveying the staff, so they can feel completely free in their comments?
Yes.
Because we won't get that, only you will
Yep.
get the information.
And the other thing that we'll also do for all of the surveys, all of the surveys have an open section where they'll have an opportunity to write whatever they want to write, everybody, board, staff, parents will have that opportunity. I'll collect those open comments, and generally what I do at that time, if there's anything personal towards somebody, is I will redact it, but then I'll give the bulk of that info, I'll give, I would say, probably 95% of that information then to Board President Runge, and he'll have that. And you can use that as part of your, like I say, if as we develop these pieces of information coming in, as we develop it, if it's too late for a brochure, that's information that you'll have for your interviewing. And so everything just kind of feeds towards the interview protocol for you to have additional, I guess, information to make the best decision for the district.
How many searches do you personally do a year?
Last year I did 3. Year before that I think I did 4. I don't do rarely more than that. I work part-time for ISB, work out of my basement, so I don't go to the Springfield office too much. But the last 2 years ago or 3 years ago, I did Champaign, so that was a large one. And so because of that fact, it was hard for me to do other ones whenever I was doing that one. Last year, I was involved with Carbondale Elementary. That was a little longer one. Year before this last year, then I was involved in Edwardsville. And so any time that there's a little bit larger district or something that has, a district wants you to perform a few more things, then it just takes a little bit longer. So, but we've just hired 2 additional consultants. They're mainly in the Chicago area, but we have another one in the Wabash region. Tim Buss is down in this area now. But what we've tried to do is kind of regionally place folks so they're not overwhelmed with searches, so. And personally, if I think that I can't do a district service, I'll just tell my boss that I'm not gonna go and present a district like that. So, Tom's pretty good about that.
Other questions from the board? Okay, so the way that I see this, then we have three options. The base option which you gave us at 7,900. We can add the staff and/or community in-district interviews for the 1,500. And then the third option would be adding the in-district stakeholder group interviews with the semifinalists. So that's our three options, right?
Right. And you could potentially, if you would want to, I mean, if you're, I mean, I kind of threw the other two in. If you would rather approve the base, we can always do an addendum for whatever you add as well. And it would have to be a separate action item on another agenda, but that's another option for you, Mr. Runge. So.
I can tell you the last time we did it, we went with the base.
Mhm.
And I'm not sure that these options were available. That was so
You know,
long
I
ago.
I don't think
I
they
don't recall.
probably were. Yeah, I don't think they probably were.
I mean, I personally like the staff and/or community in district. I like, that's me.
Mhm.
I'm one vote.
Yeah.
So I want to hear from the rest of the board on which of these three we want to go, or do you want to push it into July and think about it some more?
I like the staff and community interviews.
I agree. I think we're not doing our due diligence by not doing that.
Mr. Beavers? Mrs. Eovaldi?
I agree that I like the staff, but I also like any in-district to be included, because, just like he said, because then they feel more of a sense, I think they would feel more of a sense of purpose of they stood on their own 2 feet against all other
There's anybody
candidates.
in district with certification.
There isn't. I'm
Just
just,
superintendents, yeah.
That's the group with the semifinalists, so that's coming in with the finals.
so I guess
Right.
that's my question is, if we do have in-district applicants, is that an additional fee? If-
No.
Okay.
The in-district piece, I
Then
mean,
yes, I
they would
agree with what
apply,
you're saying.
the in-district folks would apply through the same format as everybody else. We just prefer that. That way they upload their credentials, that way we can check their license, or sure, et cetera. So,
So
like I
it'd be the
said, I
same
don't know
process.
if they're, so if there's anybody in district that has certification or not. Yeah, that last piece is basically your finalists in involving an external stakeholder group. That involves teachers,
This is the
administrators.
second round of interviews.
The second round of
Yeah.
interviews, yes, it's that second round of interviews where you get their input in addition to your second interview.
Yeah, no,
So-
I'm good.
So
Yeah.
your interviews, what are they typically, so in searches that I've been a part of,
Mhm.
often they, they're brought in, maybe there's a dinner the night before with a group, then there's, an interview with maybe staff, or, teachers.
Right.
Then there's an interview with maybe the staff here at the unit office, and then there's an interview maybe with the community stakeholders, and then it maybe ends with the board interview. Is that what it looks like, or what's the?
It can, I mean, generally not first round. First round
Right.
is more of your hour and a half face to face with the Board of Education. Because when those let's say we have 6, if they're not the chosen 3 or the chosen 2, they have to go back to the district in which they're working. And so to involve that,
Right.
like in that protocol, would be tough. But when you get to the second round, there are components of what you said of that a university model that somewhat can work with that, because you would want them to see the district. And I would also suggest that you have second round questions that would come from your district tour. and they're going to have opinions about things, hopefully. They're going to do their due diligence as well. So, can be a dinner. There's all of those components that can also fit into that second round. And so, from your first round to your second round, maybe a little bit segmented from time, just because you have to plan and have those pieces take place. Generally, meeting with the union president.
Right.
Those are the things that generally happen within that second round of interview.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so I just
Okay.
wanted to kind of
Okay.
see if
Yep.
that's.
Yep.
Anyone else? So I'm hearing, so far, at least 3 people going with the first step, additional first step.
Is there an option to include those questions that you mentioned in that interview just as part of the survey? Or do you find that you get different results with the face-to-face?
I find
you
that,
get more
yeah.
participation, but I just have a feeling that people with the strong enough opinion, we're still going to get the same information off a typed-in survey where they might have time to sit and think about it as we would with a face-to-face.
I think I get more. In the past, people don't like a forced choice, but by doing that, it really makes them think about leadership qualities. And then that next piece of it, and then if they want to write something, they'll have the opportunity to do the open comments that they may expand on what it may evolve into. I've just found that by doing that face-to-face, I'm listening to you.
Right.
And you, that connection between, I hate to say it, but the consultant and the folks that is real. And after a little bit, they're going to understand that, you know what, he or she is writing exactly what I'm saying. And then they're going to report that out to the Board of Education. And sometimes there's emotion involved. And when I say sometimes, a lot of times there's emotion involved, and you can't get emotion on a quantitative piece of survey.
Because I think that the information is extremely valuable, and
Sure.
if we can get it with a survey, great. If not, but I hear what you're saying about the emotion and passion that comes through in some of those comments. I think for me, that was kind of the seal on getting me over the bridge on that option. So I'm good.
Just first step or 2.
Only the first step.
That's kind of the consensus that I'm hearing.
I would like to involve community stakeholders and staff in the semi-finalist interviews as well.
Could we add that later if we decided?
You can.
Okay.
You can. We have an addendum to the contract where that you can talk about it, or you can, as we go through this process, and we can add that. Yes, that can be another component later. Because I did not bring a contract with me, Rick, and
That's
I'll
fine.
get this
That's fine.
to you tomorrow. But that first page is the 7,900 piece, and then the second page that goes with it are the components. And that second page of the contract, whenever I send it, that can be acted on later at a different time, at a different board meeting. The board has an opportunity to discuss exactly what you want that to be. So,
Well, then, based upon what I'm hearing so far from the board, we definitely want to go, and that's the recommendation that I'm going, and the motion that I'm gonna make is with the base plus the first step.
Mhm.
We can add in the second, should the board decide at a
Yes.
later date.
sure can.
Okay.
Yep.
Any other questions from the board? All right, then I am going to make the recommendation and a motion that we employ the services of the IASB for the full search and include the staff and/or community in-district interview option. That is the motion.
I'll second.
Mrs. Hines?
Mr. Rungy?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Dr. Dorr?
Yes.
Mr. Green?
Yes.
Mrs. Janes?
Yes.
Mrs. Evaldi?
Yes.
Mr. Beavers?
No. Motion carries. Okay,
Okay, very good. And I will get out the contract and we'll get all of that rolling. Thank you very much.
you want to send it through Mrs. Hines?
I will do that.
Okay, very
Thank
good.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Won't be the last time you see me.
Thank you.
Thank you. I will, do I have your email? Probably, is it on, let's see here a
You want me
second.
to write it down?
Yeah, can you write it down? So, Mr. Beavers? Thank you. All right, thank you. Fantastic. We'll get it going.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much for your time.
All right, the next item is the approval of the fiscal depositories.
This is one of those yearly things, and the recommendation is that we approve them as presented.
Questions?
How are they selected?
We have Illinois funds and, Illinois School District Tax Liquid Asset Fund. We've done business with a lot of years, and those are those funds, those pooled funds that districts all over the state use because we are protected at the level beyond FDIC. And the other, we just looked at, local banks and Murphysboro banks that we've done business with for.
You've only done business with these two, or?
At one time we did business with Regions, but because they became, more of a corporate bank, we changed over to First Southern.
So, like, it's just local
We don't.
area, or just the local?
Right, we don't bid out, right, we haven't bid out our banking services. Have been, happy with what we've had and not ever done an RFP or bid those out.
Other questions? Then I'll entertain a motion to accept the administration's recommendation for the approval of fiscal depositories as printed.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 3 is to appoint the sub-treasurers.
These would be the building bookkeepers, and we recommend that you present them or you approve them as presented.
Questions? I'll entertain a motion to approve the recommendation. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 4 is the renewal of the property and liability insurance and workers' compensation, school board legal liability, and student accident.
And we did receive those renewal rates from Don Ewell, after the board packet went out. And, it looks like we have an increase in our workman's comp of, about 8.5%, $14,700, and an increase in our property and liability, board legal liability in our umbrella of, where did I write that down, $30,300. So a total increase of $45,000. And those increases are based on, obviously, our auditorium claim, hit our trust, we're involved in a pool. Auditorium claim, plus there were 4 other large claims over $150,000, wind damage, fires for other districts. So our reinsurance for the whole pool increased substantially, and we were the biggest, by far the largest claim. So, that's the reason. I mean, there really wasn't a point to go shop at this point because we have that big claim on our record at that point. So the pooling does protect us. The reinsurance kicks in. It did protect us being part of that group rather than just being out on our own. Our workman's comp, last year we saw a decrease because we had a large claim year fall off. There's a 3-year average that affects our claims. But this last year that went on was a large work comp year, so a large claim year. So we looked at, so our property liability was about 17.3% increase. So
Can you repeat that, I'm sorry?
17.3% increase in our property and liability and 8.5% increase in our workers' comp. So $45,000 increase overall. Not totally unexpected at all.
Questions?
So under the legal liability, the school board legal liability, is there any cyber coverage? For like cyber coverage for protection against ransomware? Just
There
in-
is.
Okay.
There is cyber coverage.
Do you know what that deductible is. I don't know if I have that, let me just email it to
Look
me.
really, I will, I can definitely do that.
We'll send it to the entire board.
I will.
Mrs. James, you got a question?
Yeah, was our increase percentages more than the other ones in the pool, you said, because of our auditorium
Right.
that, okay.
Because the reinsurance costs more, that's what, I don't even know what the reinsurance amount is. You know, for our medical, it's like $250,000, so they said an amount that kicks in, a policy that they buy. So we were you know, when you're looking at a claim in the neighborhood of $3 million, that's, in some of those claims were, you know, a couple $100,000, yeah. So we were a large claim. I've had, you know, a couple other, trusts talk to me about, oh, we'd like to have your business. I said, you've heard about our auditorium, right? And they're like, oh, okay.
Other questions? Then I will entertain a motion to approve the renewal. So moved. Second?
Second.
Mrs. Hines?
Mr. Beavers?
Yes.
Mr. Green?
Yes.
Mrs. James?
Yes.
Mrs. Evaldi?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Dr. Dorr?
Yes.
Mr. Rungy?
Yes, motion carries. Last item is the approval of the prevailing wage rate ordinance, which is enclosure number 2 in your packets.
And the administration recommends that you pass an ordinance asserting the prevailing rate of wages for laborers, workmen, and mechanics employed on public works for said district be approved. Said district being Murphysboro, CUSD 186.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We have a need to go into closed session.
Make a motion to go into closed session pursuant to Section 2 of the Open Meetings Act 5 Illinois compiled statutes 122C to review the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the district, including hearing testimony on a complaint lodged against an employee to determine its validity, and collective negotiating matters between the public body and its employees or their representatives, or deliberations concerning salary schedules for one or more classes of employees.
In a second,
Second.
take your pick. Mrs. Hines?
Mr. Beavers?
Yes.
Dr. Dorr?
Yes.
Mrs. James?
Yes.
Mrs. Evaldi?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Green?
Yes.
Mr. Rungy?
Yes, motion carries. All right, folks,